Ladies and gentlemen, my brothers, hear me tonight, not just with your ears, but with your heart. I've come with a word of fire in my bones because I believe someone here is ready to break free. You've been surviving in silence, carrying a weight no one can see, and trying to make peace in a war zone that was never meant to be your home. But the Lord says this is the hour to rise. There's a subtle but powerful illusion that takes root in toxic relationships, and deception so smooth and cunning that often goes unnoticed until it has drained you dry. This illusion is the idea that chaos equals control. That if you can provoke the right reaction, if you can stir the right emotion, you hold the reins of power. But the truth is far darker. It is not power you hold, but a chain that binds you. When she rages, when she manipulates, when she twists words and turns love into a battlefield, she is not seeking connection, she is seeking control. And the way she does this is by feeding off your emotional responses, your anger, your frustration, your tears, your pleas. They are the fuel that keeps her engine running. You see, it's like a storm at sea. When the waves crash and you fight them, the storm grows fiercer. When you react to every blow, when you try to explain, defend, or placate, you are giving energy to the tempest. And the tempest feeds on that energy. It grows stronger, more relentless, more terrifying. This is the illusion that by engaging the chaos, you can steer it. But the truth, my friends, is that you cannot control a storm by fighting the waves. You cannot gain power by losing your peace. The battle is not out there, the battle is within. It's a battle to keep your heart steady, your mind clear, your spirit strong. The moment you understand that she thrives not on love but on your reaction, you begin to see the chains for what they are. They are not yours to carry. They are not your burden to bear. The more you resist with emotion, the more you are enslaved to her drama. And this illusion of control, this false power she wields, is designed to keep you trapped, confused, and ever searching for approval that will never come. But here's the truth that sets you free. True power comes not from reaction, but from rest. It comes from peace in the storm, calm in the chaos, strength in silence. When you stop giving a damn, when you refuse to fuel the fire with your pain and your passion, the illusion shatters. The storm loses its force. The puppeteer loses her strings. And you begin to reclaim your power, not by controlling her, but by controlling yourself. There comes a point in every man's journey when he realizes that being too available, too willing to bend, to forgive, to sacrifice is not a sign of strength, but a trap that keeps him bound. You see, when you give too much of yourself to someone who thrives on your sacrifice, you are slowly eroding the foundation of your own peace. You are pouring from an empty cup, hoping she will finally see your worth, finally appreciate your efforts, finally change, but all you get is more demands, more chaos, more confusion. I remember a time when I thought my value was measured by how much I could endure, how much I could take without breaking. I thought that if I just gave a little more, if I just loved a little harder, if I just stayed silent a little longer, she would soften. But instead of softening, the storm only grew louder. The questions only became sharper, the nights only longer. And I found myself exhausted, not just physically, but spiritually. My heart felt like a battlefield, and I was the only soldier fighting a war one couldn't win. Being too available is like handing someone the keys to your kingdom, only to watch them build walls that keep you out. You become a prisoner of your own good intentions. You bend and twist yourself into shapes that don't fit, trying to keep the peace at the cost of your own identity. Your boundaries dissolve, your voice weakens, and your spirit wears thin. And yet you keep going back, hoping for something different, hoping for relief, hoping for love. But the truth, the glorious truth is that you were never meant to be anyone's emotional doormat. You were never created to give so much of yourself that there's nothing left. Your time, your energy, your heart, they are sacred gifts. And when you start protecting them, when you start saying enough, you are not being selfish, you are being wise. You are reclaiming the dignity that was stolen by endless compromise. You are drawing the line in the sand that says, I matter. My peace matters. My soul matters. And in that moment, when you stop being too available, when you stop giving her the power to dictate your worth, something remarkable happens. You step out of the prison of exhaustion and into the freedom of self-respect. You begin to see that your love is not measured by how much you sacrifice, but by how much you sacrifice. And that, my friend, is the beginning of true strength. There comes a sacred moment, a moment of awakening that changes everything. It's not always loud or dramatic. Sometimes it's a quiet, almost imperceptible shift deep inside your soul, like the first light of dawn breaking over a dark horizon. I remember that moment in my own life, standing alone in the stillness of a night filled with questions and heartache. It was then in that silence that I heard a voice not from the world around me, but from the depths within, a voice that whispered truth I had long ignored. You were made for more than this. You were made to walk in freedom, not in chains. This awakening is like the first breath of fresh air after being trapped in a suffocating room. It fills your lungs and stirs your heart with something new, hope. It opens your eyes to the reality that the pain and turmoil you've been enduring are not your destiny. They are not the measure of your worth. This is when you begin to see the cage you've been living in, the invisible bars forged by fear, guilt, and obligation. And you start to understand that the key to unlocking that cage was inside you all along. I want you to imagine a man who has been walking through a storm, beaten by the wind and rain. His clothes are torn, his feet are weary, but suddenly the storm begins to break. The clouds part just enough to let a single ray of light shine through. That light is the moment of awakening, the moment you realize you don't have to keep fighting the storm on its terms. You can stand firm, rooted in something greater than the chaos swirling around you. It is in this awakening that you reclaim your power, not by lashing out or fighting back, but by choosing peace. You realize that your energy is precious, that your spirit is sacred, and that no one has the right to steal your joy or your calm. And with that realization comes a peace so profound that even the fiercest storms around you cannot shake it. This moment changes the game. Because once you've tasted freedom, once you've felt the light breaking through the darkness, you cannot go back to being a prisoner of someone else's chaos. You step into a new chapter, a chapter where you decide what your life looks like, where you set your own boundaries, and where you live not to please another, but to honor the divine purpose written on your heart. And so, my friends, when you stop giving a damn, not out of bitterness or anger, but out of awakened wisdom, you begin to live with a freedom so fierce, so unshakable, that those who once held power over you start losing their grip. Because you have chosen yourself. You have chosen peace. And that is the beginning of a new life. When you reach the point where you stop giving a damn, something remarkable happens not just in you, but in her. She begins to lose her mind, and you must understand this is not your burden to carry. For too long, many have believed that they must manage the chaos of others, that it is their sacred duty to fix the shattered pieces of a broken relationship at any cost. But I tell you now, there is a time when detachment is not abandonment, it is salvation. You see, her unraveling is the natural consequence of losing the power that she once held over you. When you stop reacting, when you refuse to be baited by the same old tricks, when you draw your line and hold it firm, she is forced to confront a reality she never prepared for, that her control is slipping through her fingers like sand. And that loss, my friends, is terrifying for someone who has built their identity on dominance rather than love. But here's the truth that sets you free. Her unraveling is not your responsibility. You are not the keeper of her sanity. You are not the architect of her peace. You cannot fix what she refuses to acknowledge, nor heal wounds she chooses to keep open. The moment you realize this, you release yourself from the exhausting cycle of trying to save someone who is not ready to be saved. This does not mean you become cold or unfeeling. No, it means you choose dignity over drama. You step back with grace, holding your own heart tenderly but firmly. You create space not as a punishment, but as an act of love toward yourself. And in that space, you find clarity, you find strength, you find the courage to walk forward without looking back. And while she may rage, accuse, or even try to pull you back into the storm, remember this is not negotiable. You are not obligated to sacrifice your soul for someone else's chaos. When you refuse to engage, when you stand silent and steady, the power shifts. The game changes, and the truth is revealed not just to her, but to you. You are no longer a player in her drama. You are a man anchored in truth, walking in freedom. Her unraveling is a sign that you are finally free. And in that freedom, God's grace will meet you, healing what was broken and renewing what was lost. So stand firm, my brothers. Release the weight of responsibility for her mind and her madness. Walk boldly into your peace, knowing that her losing her mind is not your falling apart. It is the breaking of chains that have held you both captive. There is a profound and often underestimated power in silence, a power that many overlook because they mistake noise for strength. But true strength, my friends, is found not in the loudness of our voices or the fury of our words, but in the quiet stillness of our souls. When you stop giving a damn and you choose silence over argument, peace over provocation, you wield a weapon far more powerful than anger or retaliation. I have stood in the presence of storms both within myself and in the lives of others, and I've seen how noise can escalate conflict, how words can wound some deeper than any sword. But I've also witnessed the strength of silence, the calm that disarms the chaos, the pause that stops the spiraling thoughts, the space where clarity begins to grow. When you refuse to react, when you withhold your energy from the fire, you begin to extinguish it. Think of it like a wildfire raging through a forest. The wind howls, the flames leap high, threatening to consume everything in their path. But when the rain falls silent, steady, unwavering, the fire begins to die down. Silence is that rain. It doesn't shout or rage. It doesn't seek to dominate. It simply is. And in its presence, the wildfire loses its power. In choosing silence, you create a sanctuary within yourself, a sacred place where your heart can heal, your mind can rest, and your spirit can be renewed. This silence is not empty or passive. It is full of purpose and intention. It is a declaration that you will no longer be dragged into battles that serve no good. It is a boundary that protects your peace and preserves your dignity. Moreover, silence invites reflection. It gives you time to listen not just to the noise around you, but to the still, small voice within. It is in this sacred quiet that God speaks most clearly. It is where you find wisdom, guidance, and strength to move forward. When you stop giving a damn, you stop feeding the chaos with your reactions, and you begin to feed your soul with the nourishment it desperately needs. And here's the blessing, my brothers. In your silence, she begins to lose her mind because the game she's been playing, the one fueled by your noise, loses its power. Your calm becomes a mirror reflecting her own unrest, but you are anchored. You are unshaken. You are free. So do not underestimate the strength of silence. Do not mistake it for weakness. It is the weapon of the wise, the refuge of the strong, and the pathway to peace. When you choose silence, you are not surrendering, you are winning. And in that quiet victory, you reclaim your life, your purpose, and your destiny. In the quiet that follows the storm, when you have stopped giving a damn and ceased the endless cycle of reaction, there comes a moment, a sacred moment, when you begin to hear something far deeper than the noise of conflict. It is the voice of God, soft yet powerful, speaking directly to your heart in the stillness. This is not a voice of condemnation or doubt, but one of reassurance, love, and purpose. It calls you back to the truth of who you are, beyond the chaos, beyond the hurt, beyond the lies. I remember standing on a mountaintop once, the wind calm, the sky vast and open before me. In that silence, I felt a presence so overwhelming, so tender, it brought tears to my eyes. It was as if God was saying, "You are my beloved. You are chosen. You have not been forgotten." In that moment, all the noise from the past faded away, and I was filled with a peace that surpassed understanding. It was a peace that no human conflict could steal, no manipulation could break. When you stop giving a damn, you create space not just in your life, but in your soul for God's voice to be heard. And this voice will remind you of your worth, not as the world measures it, but as the Creator sees it. It reminds you that you are fearfully and wonderfully made, that your value is not tied to someone else's approval or anger, It tells you that your life has meaning and that you are destined for greatness far beyond the pain you have endured. This divine whisper also brings clarity. It helps you see the path ahead, the steps you must take to walk into freedom. It strengthens your heart to release bitterness and resentment and to forgive not for their sake, but for your own healing. It calls you to rise above the drama and to live a life grounded in faith, hope, and love. And as you listen, you begin to understand that the loss you feared, losing control over the relationship, losing their favor, is actually a gain. A gain of peace, a gain of self-respect, a gain of spiritual freedom. The voice of God in the quiet teaches you that your identity is not in the chaos of others, but in the unchanging love of the one who made you. So when you stop giving a damn, do not fear the silence that follows. Embrace it, because in that silence you will hear the voice that truly matters. The voice that calls you to life, to healing, to wholeness. And with every word, with every breath, you will find yourself renewed, restored, and ready to walk boldly into the future God has prepared for you. When you finally come to that place where you no longer give a damn, where you refuse to be dragged into the endless drama, something extraordinary begins to unfold, a new chapter of your life that is marked by freedom, strength, and peace. This is the moment when you take back what was stolen from you, your power, your dignity, your joy. It is the day you stop living as a captive to someone else's chaos and start living as the master of your own destiny. I want you to picture a man standing at the edge of a vast wilderness, the weight of past struggles pressing down on him like heavy chains. But in his heart burns a fire of courage, faith, and a determination. He takes a deep breath, lifts his head, and steps forward into the unknown, not with fear, but with hope. That man is you. That wilderness is your life, full of challenges, but also endless possibility. Choosing to stop caring about the chaos around you is not giving up. It's a fierce act of self-love and self-preservation. It's saying, I will not let your madness define me. I will not sacrifice my peace for your drama. It's reclaiming your time, your energy, your spirit. And in doing so, you open the door to healing, not just for yourself, but for those around you as well. Because when you live from a place of peace, others are invited to do the same. This new chapter invites you to build a life founded on faith, faith in yourself, faith in God's plan, and faith in the promise of a brighter tomorrow. It is a life where your worth is not measured by the approval of others, but by the love that flows through you. A life where your voice is strong and clear, your boundaries firm, and your heart open to what truly matters. And here is the powerful truth. When you choose this path, you become a beacon of hope. You inspire others trapped in similar storms to find their courage, to reclaim their power, to stop giving a damn and start living. Your journey becomes a testimony of resilience, a living sermon of faith overcoming fear. So stand tall, my brothers. Step boldly into this new season with confidence and grace. Let go of the need to control what you cannot change and embrace the freedom that comes from surrendering your worries to God. Remember, the greatest victory is not in changing others, but in changing yourself, choosing peace over pain, love over anger, and freedom over fear. This is your moment. This is your calling. Walk forward with courage, knowing that when you stop giving a damn, you start living a life that truly matters. And so, my friends, as we stand together at this crossroads, I urge you to remember this truth. Your peace is your power. When you stop giving a damn, not out of bitterness, but out of wisdom, you break the chains that have held you captive. You step out of the storm and into the light of freedom. You reclaim your dignity, your strength, and your soul. Let this be the day you choose yourself. Let this be the moment you refuse to be controlled by chaos or consumed by someone else's madness. Walk boldly into your future, anchored in faith and filled with hope, knowing that the greatest victory is not in the battles you fight, but in the peace you hold within. May God bless you with the courage to stand firm, the grace to walk away, and the wisdom to know your worth. Because when you stop giving a damn, that's when your life truly begins. Amen.